I now recognize the chairman of the full committee, Mr. Comer from Kentucky, for 5 minutes of questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One of the prevailing themes of the pandemic has been scientists' use of the media to downplay the lab leak theory. Mr. Wade, in your career, you worked at Nature magazine, Science magazine, and the New York Times. Would you agree that the scientific establishment used the media to downplay the lab leak theory?
Microphone.
That's a complicated issue, Mr. Comer. I think the media was used. It was used in this particular campaign to establish the natural origin theory. The scientific community is very afraid to speak up on political issues, and I think the reason is that the government grants are handed out through this system of peer review committees, right. And so you don't want any single scientist on your peer review committee to vote against you. Therefore, because you won't get your grant, it's so competitive. So therefore, scientists are very reluctant to say anything that is politically divisive or might turn other scientists off against them. This means that they cannot be relied upon in the way that I think we would like them to be independent and forthright, right, and call it as they see it.
Okay. Well, we saw this first with the proximal origin paper that said, quote, "Our analysis clearly showed that COVID-19 is not a laboratory construct or a purposely manipulated virus," end quote. This was first published on February 17th of 2020. Each witness, I have a simple question. Yes or no, was there science available to make such an unequivocal statement against the possibility of a lab leak that early on in February of 2020? Dr.
Absolutely no.
Mr. Wade.
No, it was not.
Yeah, I don't have sufficient. I don't have sufficient frame of reference to give an answer.
No.
Next, Peter Daszak of EcoHealth Alliance orchestrated a letter in The Lancet, a prestigious journal, on February 19, 2020 that said, quote, "We strongly condemn conspiracy theories suggesting that COVID-19 does not have a natural origin," end quote. Each witness, yes or no, is the possibility COVID-19 leaked from a lab a conspiracy theory? Dr.
Absolutely not.
No.
I would say no, but also it has been approached as such.
Dr.
No.
Redfield. Dr. Redfield, I want to stick with you. You have said before that you were locked out of conversations about the lab leak by Dr. Fauci and Dr. Collins. Do you think they kept you out of the conversations because you believe COVID-19 may have come from a lab?
Yeah, I think I made it very clear in January to all of them why we had to aggressively pursue this, and I let them know as a virologist that I didn't see that this was anything like SARS or MERS because they never learned how to transmit human to human, that I felt this virus was too infectious for humans. There was a lot of evidence that lab actually published in 2014 that they put the H2 receptor into humanized mice so it could infect human tissue. I think, we had to really seriously go after the fact that it came from the lab, and they knew that that was how I was thinking, although I thought we had to go after both hypotheses. And I was told later, I didn't know I was excluded. I didn't know there was a February 1st conference call until the Freedom of Information came out with the emails, and I was quite upset as the CDC director that I was excluded from those discussions.
Why would they do this?
Because I had a different point of view, and I was told they made a decision that they would keep this confidential until they came up with a single narrative, which I will argue is antithetical to science. Science never selects a single narrative. We foster, as my colleague here just said, we foster debate. Mm-hmm. And we're confident that with debate, science will eventually get to the truth. This was an a priori decision that there's one point of view that we're going to put out there, and anyone who doesn't agree with it is going to be sidelined. And as I say, I was only the CDC director, right, and I was sidelined.
Well, I think Dr. Fauci and Dr. Collins got caught with their hand in the cookie jar. They got caught supercharging viruses in an unsecure Chinese lab. They wanted to push the envelope, and so they got together to cover themselves, cover up their story, and wipe their fingerprints of the virus that has killed more than 1 million Americans. To quote Jurassic Park, they were, quote, so preoccupied with whether or not they could, they didn't stop to think if they should, end quote. I look forward to the rest of the testimony today, and I look forward to the great work of this subcommittee. Mr. Chair, I yield back.